going on, everyone? Welcome to another ranking. I just got back from South by Southwest and had an awesome time at that film festival. First one for me, first film festival in general. But instead of just talking how my experience went, I thought it'd be fun to rank all the films that me and Griffin both saw there. And Griffin is with me today from Men vs. Movies. How you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. I just got finished watching Under the Silver Lake, so I'm trying to, kind of wrap my head around that. But I'm excited to talk about some really great films, some like a handful of not so great films, but all around, we both had an excellent time at South by Southwest, and highly recommend to anyone looking to go just experience great cinema and have fun doing it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot express enough that South by Southwest was a great and excellent time. If you get the chance, definitely go. It's well worth the money. Like, for the amount of experiences that we had, and that I'm sure we'll interact and entwine into when we're talking about certain films, which we'll get into now. Here's the deal, though. We did not go for the whole festival. We only went till Wednesday, so we did miss out on films like Curse of La Llorona. We missed out on Pet Sematary, and we missed mostly out on The Peanut Butter Falcon, which was probably the main film that we did care about. Yeah, but we did see a lot of good films. I saw 12 films, and I'm pretty sure you saw 11, right?
I saw 11. Yeah, you saw one more than me.
Yeah, so I'm going to start this at the bottom, and then we're kind of just going to go back and forth. And then we do have two different films. I saw Teen Spirit. He saw Red 11, which I kind of wish I would have just saw Red 11, because you got the... Robert Rodriguez praised your review of it, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it was... I mean, that was just... We'll get to that when we talk about it, but yeah, that was kind of surreal.
It's awesome, man. So I'm going to start with my number 12, and my number 12 is Adopt a Highway. This is a directorial debut from Logan Marshall Green and starred Ethan Hawke. Now, I was really looking forward to this film, and necessarily, here's the thing, on my list, I didn't hate any of these films. I actually didn't love any of the... I loved quite a few of these, but there wasn't one of those films where I was like, that was a total waste of my time. Adopt a Highway was good. It wasn't amazing, where I think it actually should be, like when you're reading the concept, who's in it. The most amazing thing about it, though, is Ethan Hawke's performance. The guy is always giving it 100%. He really, again, transforms into this guy that he's portraying. My issue with the film, and I think it's the same thing with you, is that it kind of just seems boring. And it felt like it should have just been a short film. And it also feels like two different stories are happening on the screen. And Logan Marshall Green, while his direction is good, and I'm actually curious to see what he'll do next, the script was kind of my big issue with this, because it does feel like two separate stories, the first half and then the second half, which don't ever intertwine. I get it's about second chances and whatnot, but I feel like it could have intertwined a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'll get into that shortly, but I totally will echo a lot of what you say with that one.
Yeah, and I guess start with your number 11, because I'm pretty sure I know which one it is.
Right, number 11. I think will be the same as your number 11, but since you saw one more. But anyways, my number 11 is a film called Olympic Dreams. Now, this is a movie that I was actually really looking forward to because of kind of the production behind it. It was a film that was shot entirely in the athletes' village during the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics. The filmmakers went to the International Olympic Committee, and they were like, hey, we want to make this movie. And I guess the IOC has like an initiative for like artists who are also athletes, and so they were like, yeah, sure, what the hell, do it. And so this movie is really like documentary-esque. It's a one-camera crew, and they get like everything. I mean, they capture the athletes doing their stuff, and you really get a feel for what life is in the athletes' village. Unfortunately, the movie kind of focuses on this romance between Nick Kroll, who plays a volunteer dentist, and I forget her name. What is it? Alexi Pappas, was that her name?
Yeah, Alexis Pappas.
Alexis Pappas, who is also an athlete who has competed in the Summer Olympics. And so while both of them give good performances, and actually I'd say nuanced performances on their own, when they kind of come together, it's a romance that doesn't quite work for me for several reasons. They kind of montage through the relationship building, and we get a lot of sequences of them just like admiring sports and saying, "Oh, look at that," and then they kind of break it down, and so it kind of just feels like, they're giving the Olympics a little bit of a under the table pleasure, but yeah, and so like that was just kind of like, okay, cool, I get it, but I don't need this, and it's not really building the relationship. And then on top of that, Nick Kroll's character is 37 years old, and Alexis is
22.
or she's 22, and so like while it's not like. While the bond kind of makes sense, the way it like is like at the beginning the bond makes sense, but as the film goes on, it just gets creepy and uncomfortable. And I think that what started out as like very natural and innocent awkwardness, it becomes almost too awkward. And then on top of that, I think sometimes the performances falter at times, mainly as the film progresses. And so it was just an experience that, like, I appreciated the craft behind it, but I wasn't really buying the romance. And I also just thought the characterization was a little inconsistent at times. And yeah, you know, it's just basically just like a glorified let's praise the Olympics piece, which is cool, but at the same time, it was they missed an opportunity to really dive into the psyche and the sociological and societal effects of these athletes after they compete, and they touch on it a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, this is my number 11 is Olympic Dreams as well, and.
Yeah.
This was a film when I walked out, I liked it way more than you did. But the more I thought about it, before I even had my interaction with Nick Kroll, which we won't get to, but the more I thought about it, I was like, it's more of a film that I appreciate because of how it was made than how much I liked it.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I think it's a good movie. It's a well-made film. It's very, like, the fact of how they made the film is incredible. But the one thing I don't disagree, I feel like the relationship. Like, while you say it's creepy, I think it would have worked if it was more like a father-daughter relationship.
That was it. Yeah, I completely
the more
agree.
I'm with you on that, I think that's the aspect I liked. Like, I was never hoping that they would kiss.
No.
Like, that was my big thing.
Yeah.
And
like,
or
that
maybe
whole...
if they would have aged him down a little bit, like late 20s, like a 28 or 29.
Yes.
Just wanting to get an experience. Maybe, like, and would have had the same character interaction. It would have worked, because I think Nick Kroll is great. I think Alexius is great. I thought they were both phenomenal in film when they were separated. Mm-hmm. When they were together, I liked their performances, and I liked their chemistry with one another, but when they started actually having a relationship of sorts, it doesn't work. Yeah. I think the direction is really cool. My biggest con with the film is it just feels like a short film.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
It just feels
really...
like it should have dragged.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the montaging, which I forgot to mention. It just felt like they used those montages in order to pad out a feature-length runtime, which it's not a very long film. It's like a little over an hour, or maybe like an hour 20 or something like that. So it is a shorter feature-length film, but I couldn't help but feel like had they condensed everything into, you know, like a 30 or 45 minute film, maybe even a 20-minute film, who knows, it would have worked way more effective. And yeah, I agree, it would have.
And even hearing about them in the Q&A as the director was talking, like, hey, we were actually just gonna go film for this, but then we got Night Kroll and we started moving it all around. I mean, like, there was no script, and a lot of this was improvised, and the improvised moments work, but as a whole story, I felt like it didn't work as well, and it's really just fallen down on my list. I would still, like, if you get the chance to see it, like, do search it out. Any of these films in general, I think they're all worth watching if it's, like, your kind of cup of tea, but that's kind of why Olympic Dreams, I think, pretty much falls at the bottom of yours and falls at my number 11.
Yeah.
But that's where we get to number 10, which, Griffin, I'm going to have you start with number 10.
Yeah, number 10 for me is your number 12, which is Adopt a Highway. This to me, we get a lot of what's his name, Logan Marshall Green's. We get a lot of his personality and, you know, passion, and the film is very much his vision, but unfortunately it's dull. The first half is far more interesting than the second half, and it really just kind of loses its way. It just becomes a wandering person film with an excellent performance by Ethan Hawke. But you said that Logan Marshall Green's direction was good, and I agree it's good, but it also feels very amateur. Maybe amateur is the wrong word, but it feels very much like a first-time director. Like the way he holds on some shots a little too long, the way certain sequences show every act that is happening, and maybe that was deliberate in order to create this really slow and methodical pace, but it never really worked for me. The first half focuses on Ethan Hawke, who's like a convict who's trying to assimilate into society. I mean, and he comes across this baby, and that's not giving anything away. I mean, that's very much like what happens pretty early on. And so that whole dynamic and that relationship and how the baby is helping him, you know, become a better person and get back into society is really interesting. Unfortunately, they just drop it halfway through, and the movie just becomes very cliched, and it tries to tackle a few other different things that never really works. And on top of that, it's just super boring and uninteresting.
Yeah, I dozed off. I won't lie. Yeah, I kind of fell asleep a little bit.
Yeah. And it's a shame because I appreciate what Logan Marshall Green was trying to do. He was trying to go outside of his comfort zone and create something that wasn't a straight up action film or something that had a lot of, like, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, as he put it, or violence and rock and roll, as he kind of put it. But I feel maybe for his directorial debut, if he had stuck with something that was more inside his wheelhouse, he could have moved to something like this that would have been a little bit more interesting. I mean, I really forgot about this film a lot as we kind of went through the festival. So
I will say this: I have a feeling his next film that he directs will probably be more in his wheelhouse, like action, like a smaller action film, kind of in the vein of an Upgrade or some sorts. But we're gonna go down to my number 10, and my number 10 is Art of Self-Defense. This was one of the films I was really looking forward to in the festival, and I came out a little bit disappointed. Still a good film, still entertaining. It has Jesse Eisenberg learning karate in the weirdest of ways from. It's kind of a Karate Kid got fucked up. Like that's exactly what Art of Self-Defense is. And it's a dark comedy that gets pretty damn dark at times. And really weird, but I enjoyed it for the most part. My big issue with this film and why it kind of just falters towards the end is the pacing just dragged. And there were certain moments and certain scenes, and it even unfolds very predictable, where I was just sitting here like, okay, I'm ready to just get up and leave. Like, can we just end the story here and there? Eisenberg's good in here. I even think the big standout performance, though, is the guy who plays the sensei. Yeah, I thought he was phenomenal. But again, it's a predictable film that I wish it didn't go in that predictable route. I wish it would have stuck more to maybe a Karate Kid montage of why he's going to this and kind of kept the same dark comedy, because you really could have still kept those moments. But it just, again, unfolds in a very predictable way, and also just ends up being kind of forgettable. There's some good moments in there, but just not a film I want to rush back out to watch.
Coming in at number 9 for me was the film that you didn't get a chance to see, and that was Robert Rodriguez's Red 11. Now, if I were to, you know, rank the Masterclass as a whole, which was kind of like the mini docuseries in him explaining how to make a film on a low budget with the film, then this would actually be a lot higher, because I thought it was an invaluable experience that is going to inspire a lot of aspiring filmmakers. So it's going to give them the tools needed in order to go out and make a movie on a shoestring budget. But and really, I don't know if you can talk about Red 11 just as a singular film itself, but I guess since we're ranking just the films, that's why I put it here. It's low budget, it's super grindhouse, it's stylized, it's very, you know, early Robert Rodriguez. And I actually think that it serves as a nice, like, kind of manifestation of his mentorship mentality, because in case you aren't familiar with, you know, all the work that Robert Rodriguez has done, he's very, you know, prominent and active in championing young filmmakers, or not even young, but just like aspiring filmmakers. He you know, wrote a book back in the day called Rebel Without a Crew, which basically documented his experience making El Mariachi, which was his first feature film, and where he kind of broke out onto the scene. And so this Red 11 and the Masterclass is kind of like the visual telling of that story. So it's super interesting when you get both sides of it. But Red 11 as itself, it gets kind of convoluted towards the end, and some of the metaphors are a little on the nose at times, but it all kind of services what Rodriguez was doing, because this was ultimately a film that he never intended to make into like a full feature-length movie. It just kind of happened, because originally the intent of shooting this film was to kind of just like give the docuseries little segments where he can kind of explain better what he was trying to teach. But then as the film progressed, it kind of just turned into something else, and it's drawn from his own personal experiences working in or giving his body to science, to these drug experiments. And so you've got that personal angle in there, and the main character is based off of him, but it's in like this sci-fi thriller Elseworld kind of thing. But the really cool thing about it is that it was made not only by him, but it was made with him and his sons. His eldest son helped direct it, shoot it. They were like a 2-person crew, and then his other son, who acted in the film, did the music for it. And so it was a nice kind of family bonding experience there, and it shows. It's a personal story. Rodriguez was very excited to show it and just like, prove to people out there that you don't need the best equipment, you don't need all the money in the world, you just need an idea, you need to get it down, and you can just go out there and make whatever you want. And so it was a good movie, but it was an exceptional masterclass.
See, I really like hearing that, and I wish I would have been there, but my number 9 is actually the film that I missed Red 11 for, and that was Teen Spirit. I went to the U.S. premiere of Teen Spirit with Elle Fanning. My God, this film has actually grown a little bit more on me the more that I've actually thought about it. Every film up from here on out, I really utterly enjoyed. And Teen Spirit, as much as it is a concert film, I think there's a lot of great stuff in there. I actually think it could have been a little bit longer and gone into more explanations of certain things within Elle Fanning's character in here.
Yeah.
But my God, she has a voice. Like, I want the whole album to this film, because even though a lot of she only sings like one new song, the rest are kind of like covers. She makes it into her own, and the whole film has just a vibrant energy to it. I'm not just saying that because of the vibrant colors that it gives, but it just has a vibrant fluent to it. And she has this mentor that you never think would work, but their bond just works perfectly in it. And it, in a sense, this film is very relatable. And I think it's to any inspiring star and just what's going on. I think this is Elle Fanning, one of her best performances today, and this is a film not to miss. Like, if you love music, if you love that whole background, and if you even love like kind of making fun of like the American Idol type stuff, there's a little bit of a message towards that. It's all in there, and I think Teen Spirit was one of the films that has really grown on me the more that I thought about it throughout the coming days.
Yeah, no, I'm so bummed I missed that, because that was actually like my number 1 film I wanted to watch, probably aside from us going into South by Southwest, but I had another opportunity to go screen it, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to Elle Fanning at a press junket, so it kind of works out. But yeah. Coming in at, what are we on, number 8 now?
Yeah,
coming in at number 8 was the one I think you said for number 10, and that was The Art of Self-Defense, which I think is a really interesting look at like toxic masculinity. And it's so in that regard, it's like super relevant, and you can tell that there was the filmmakers had fun kind of like making a satire based around there, but much like and like I appreciate the quirkiness of it. It was awkward and it was weird, but it was done in all the best ways possible. Exactly what you would want from like an indie dry comedy like this. But much like I thought, while the premise was interesting, it unfolded really predictably, and there was some serious pacing issues that just bogged this movie down to no end. It dragged. I really got uninterested as it progressed, and a lot of people are kind of comparing it to like the indie version of Fight Club, and I can kind of see where that's coming from, or where they're coming from with that. It's not exactly the same thing because it's far less interesting, but yeah, and so I performances are great. I thought Jesse Eisenberg, and when does he ever not give a good performance? And then, I agree with you. The guy who played the sensei was probably my favorite performance in the entire film. It just was way too long, or at least it felt like it was way too long. And so in that regard, I was a little disappointed. And this wasn't one that stuck with me. In fact, I remember we brought it up in several conversations. I just kept forgetting about this movie. So I think maybe that's a testament to the fact that the movie is somewhat forgettable.
Yeah, and I mean it's a good idea, and I think the dry humor does work. But then at a certain point, you're just like, okay, this film's kind of overstaying its welcome, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's kind of
absolutely.
where it gets
Yeah.
to. But we're gonna go down to my number 8, which was probably I got to do the red carpet for this film, and it was a blast. And this was a film ever since Sundance, I was like dying to see this film. It's a Little Monster. It's about a preschool teacher played by Lupita Nyong'o who just takes her kids on a field trip, and all of a sudden a zombie apocalypse breaks out. The thing about this film, though, is as I was talking to director, I had not seen the film yet, which sucks. I wish they would screen the films before you ask questions.
Yeah,
But
seriously.
anyways, that's a different complaint. But as you're before I actually got to screen the film, I asked the director, I'm like, so what made you want to jump into a horror time? You've mostly done comedies. He actually told me, he's like, well, this is actually more of a comedy than a horror film at all. And the first 30 minutes establishes that heavily. There is like no horror content till like 30 minutes in.
Hmm.
It's a straight up comedy. And Lupita Nyong'o is actually not even one of the main characters. The main character is an Australian actor who does a phenomenal job throughout the whole film, which caught me off guard. I did not expect that. And I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. You'll probably remember the guy who plays Olaf.
Oh, Josh Gad. Yeah, yeah.
He has a role in here.
Yeah, I
as
heard
a
everyone
child
said
celebrity.
that he's great.
Dude, he steals the whole film, and that's really where this film works. There was never laughs that fell flat for me. All the laughs really had me gut busting. They had me laughing out loud and just having a blast with it. The kids in here, while not giving the most great performances, like I could say a Jacob Tremblay in Room, they're good. They're working, but it's really just the three main stars in here: Josh Gad, Lupita Nyong'o, and the Australian actor that I'm totally blanking on. All great, but it comes down to the direction and the script that makes this film work more as a comedy than a horror film. It's kind of this year's Shaun of the Dead, I would like to say, just way more independent, and it ended up having me. I had a blast with Little Monsters and how much fun it was. You're not going to be getting a bunch of zombie kills. You'll get some here or there, but it's really, you're watching this film for the humor and the weird offbeat jokes that it has. I think if you've ever watched like any sort of like say Shaun of the Dead or British comedies that you've liked before, it kind of is in the same vein within an Australian comedy, and I really enjoyed Little Monsters for that.
Okay, yeah, and then see that was one I didn't get to see. That was the one I missed because I was doing other things, which
We'll talk
see
about
soon. But no, yeah, I mean, everyone said it was a good time and that it was definitely more of a comedy. So that gets me excited to finally watch it. And apparently, I guess Hulu is picking it up.
Yeah,
So
that's what I read.
that's promising. But yeah,
Yes.
so now we're on to number 7, I believe, correct?
Yes, number
Yes.
7.
Number
You
7.
start with us.
Curious if we have the same one. Number 7 for me is Extraordinary.
Me too.
Yeah?
Number 7
Okay,
is my
cool.
extraordinary too.
Yeah, I mean the way I describe this movie is that it's Taika Waititi meets Yorgos Lanthimos,
Yep.
and it's quippy, it's really fast paced, it's like ghostly satire. It's got a lot
It's
of
great.
it's got a lot of dry wit and humor. It's an Irish film, and so you get that that Irish humor kind of infused in there, which I absolutely love. It's super creative. It's just kind of like off the walls, insane. It's energetic. It's stylish.
Especially towards the back half. Like if
Oh,
you think
yeah,
this film,
the
like when you start watching
yeah.
this film, if you think like, oh, this is weird, but I dig it. No, the last like 20 minutes is
Yeah.
some of the like it's like they threw everything at the fucking wall.
Yeah,
And some of it sticks and some of it doesn't, but I like you, I enjoyed Extraordinary so much. Like if you like Will Forte, you've never seen him like
Will Forte was a standout. I kind of piggybacking off of what you said in regards to the back half. I do think it kind of falls apart at the end a little bit. Like it just goes a little too overboard. But like at the same time, it's really sincere and charming. There's a romance.
even the
that
ending,
you
like the
believe
exact ending works perfectly. Like
Yeah,
the way the
yeah.
last line is awesome
Oh
for
my
our main
god, it
character.
was great. Yeah, and just
Faith
listen to-
Higgins is excellent. in
Yeah,
here.
maybe she was. Oh gosh, yeah. I think the performances all around were super excellent, and everyone showed off their comedic chops, especially Higgins. So it's kind of like the Irish Ghostbusters. It kind of makes fun of like other like ghostly type paranormal.
Yeah. It's mostly
films.
Ghostbusters and Exorcist.
Yeah, it's just a little bit.
and it
yeah.
works.
No, it
And
totally
it never
does.
feels
It's
like a
blast.
parody.
No,
Yeah, it never
it's
felt
not
like a parody, and I liked it. And like for people who, like this is a film to keep on your radar. Like I'd say 7 and up. I love these films.
Yeah,
because Extraordinary, it's just about a driving instructor who can talk to ghosts
yeah,
and a rock star who has satanic purposes in this small town.
yeah,
And
yeah.
some of the stuff that might be going around in that. And again, it's just unique.
It's
like
so
I
bizarre,
really
yeah.
like that. But pretty much, let's move on to number 6. We might have the same number 6.
Yeah, number 6 for me is Yes, God, Yes.
Oh, mine's not number 6. That's not my
Oh,
number 6. So
interesting.
you go.
Yeah, I love. The more I think about this movie, the more I like it. It's super relatable, especially like growing up in the late '90s, early 2000s. The music, the soundtrack was killer, and so like integrating some of those songs in there was great. Helped like create the environment. And actually, that's one thing I do want to say is that I think this is one of the few films kind of like mid 90s really captured the mid 90s. Yes, God, Yes really captures the early 2000s because it doesn't like lean into it like, hey, remember this, remember that cool thing, remember, you know, going on online chat rooms and talking to weird people. It's all just like really subtle, and it's just, you know, innately part of the identity of the movie, because that's when this story, which is based off of the director's own personal experiences, it's when that takes place, and so the time period is that's just the time when, you know, the story is being told. But on top of that, you know, just being Catholic, much like the main character, and kind of, you know, listening to the hypocrisy of what they're saying, and then like the people who are saying that are off doing things, but they'll shame you for, you know, having these, like in her case, sexual urges and stuff like that. And so in that regard, it's actually a nice you know, commentary on the freeing of, you know, female sexuality, like being able to explore their own sexuality without you know, being condemned, I guess you could say. So it kind of makes a comment on that, which is great. But the performances all around are so good. It's got a lot of great humor. I thought Natalia was it Dyer? Yeah, Natalia Dyer is super great in the lead role. She's super understated, but she says so much in her facial reactions, which is what gives her performance that extra layer of nuance. And for those of you who know Tyler Tompkins, his doppelganger, well, not doppelganger,
yes,
but the very essence of that man is personified in a character that they're
by Wolfgang. That's the guy's name.
Wolfgang. Yeah, he was kind of like a little bit of a Tim Tebow guy, so that was funny. But yeah, no, all around, it's a super relatable movie with great humor, a great commentary and message, and I loved the director brought a lot of her own personal experiences and just style into the film, and so I got to commend her on that. This was just such a delight.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm the same with you. But I'll say my Yes, God, Yes for a little bit, just so everyone knows. Like 3 through 6, this morning I was flipping it around like multiple times.
I believe it. Yeah.
So my number 6 is Villains. Now
Okay,
I think Villains would move up if I would have seen it again, because I was tired when I did see it. I didn't like doze off or anything, but I loved Villains. Like,
dude,
this was an excellent film. It's a messed up Bonnie and Clyde story. And I love that the directors even expressed that, because even though our two main characters are villains, they're dealing with worse people than them. And it's a dark crime comedy, I guess is how you put it, with some horror and thriller tones to it. Like, it is just an overall great film. Bill Skarsgård is an excellent actor, and if you have not seen, like, if you've really just seen him as Pennywise, I think Villains is going to put him more on the map. Micah Monroe's excellent, but my God, the big standout of Villains is Jeffrey Donovan.
Donovan, man.
He deserves so much more. Ever since Burn Notice ended, I want him in everything, and he's never been in a lot. He's mostly shown up in like supporting roles in Sicario. No, he is here to play as one of the main antagonists.
Yeah.
And he's great, because Villains is just, again, it's two people breaking into a house, and they end up finding something that kind of balances their morale. Should we do this? Should we do that? Should we
that's the thing. It completely, because this is actually my number. What do you want? This is 6. Would be my next one. Yeah, this is actually Villains is my number 6, and I completely agree. It flips the home invasion genre on its head, where the people who are breaking in become like the captives, you know, and so the people who live in the house are more in line with the people who would usually break in, and so that's really interesting. But you're right, it's a dark comedy, but it's also like a character piece on these Bonnie and Clyde type lovers on the run, and there's a nice contrast going on between the couples. So you have like Jeffrey Donovan and Kyra Sedgwick, who is also excellent.
She's great.
They just light up the screen. They have this warped sense of love, and they toxically serve one another when they're like committing some atrocities, which you'll see in the film. And they kind of explore their like psychopathic past, which is like super interesting. I wish we got a little bit of that with the other characters, which were Bill Skarsgård and Micah Monroe, who play Mickey and Jules. But anyways, I just liked the contrast between the couples, where it's like Mickey and Jules would be that psycho couple if they continue down this path of being villains, as the title suggests. But on top of that, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of just like I guess as I said earlier, there's a lot of dark comedy in it, and
it's a great audience film.
Yeah,
it's a great big audience
for sure. It's got a lot of like manic energy, and the source of a lot of that is Bill Skarsgård, who is finally given something he can like sink his teeth into. This is a really meaty role where there's not a lot written on the page, but he like brings a lot to the table.
It's energetic, and that's what the whole film felt like. That the pacing never was an issue. It was totally just, it went by too fast. I could have used like another 20 minutes in there, and I would have had even more fun.
It was just so much fun watching them interact. There's a lot of juicy dialogue and great monologues, exchanges. This is a movie that's similar to Extraordinary. Is high energy. It doesn't stop. It's got a lot of like twisted humor in there. But as opposed to Extraordinary, I think this film is more character-based and is more interesting in how it interprets the characters. And in the one character I haven't really touched on a whole lot is Micah Monroe, who is obviously excellent in It Follows, and she's excellent here. She matches Skarsgård's energy, but she also... They kind of allude to a troubled past that she may or may not have had, and I thought that helped give her character more of a fully realized arc. But yeah, I mean, overall, I really hope people seek this one out, because it's going to be one that when it hits and it comes out, people are going to eat it up for the performances alone,
Yeah, whatever studio gets villains, they're going to be so lucky.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if A24 ends up getting it, though.
Yeah,
to be honest,
very much in line with an A24 film.
But yeah, so this was actually your number 5. I was like looking over. So I guess I should, cool. So I guess I should go on my number 5. My number 5, you're probably going to scream, Booksmart.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I will say this. I think Booksmart is the second best directed film out of all the films I saw. I think Olivia Wilde nailed it and destroyed her directorial debut. But as a film itself, it's a film that I loved. Like 5 and up, I thoroughly loved. But for some reason, I found myself going back and wanting to see the other ones more.
Really? Oh, dang,
yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of that might be my number 4 is when we get to my number 4, I'm a little bit more relatable to that one, so maybe that's why my number 4 is there. But Booksmart is maybe a film that it's an instant classic that I think will be, again, like the Superbad or maybe even the Dazed and Confused of this generation. I think it was excellent. The performances all around. I think Billie Lourd is the big-ass standout of the whole film.
She's
Her
great.
performance. There's just so much humor and heart to this film. And it's never the humor that, even though it does get raunchy at times, it always strays back to that heartfelt performance and that realistic high school and what high school really felt like. And it really felt realistic to where a lot of films don't get high school right. I think Booksmart did. And a lot of that goes to the direction, the writing, the performances. Everyone involved did a phenomenal job in Booksmart. And I loved it overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think our number 3 and 4s are kind of flopped. Are flipped, I should say. So Booksmart's my number 3. I'll just talk about it now since you brought it up.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this film. It is consistently funny throughout. I agree with you. I think this is one of the best directed, probably the second best directed film at the festival, because you can clearly see Olivia Wilde's voice and style integrated throughout it. The performances by Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein, who is Jonah Hill's sister.
Yeah,
their chemistry is ridiculous. There is one scene, and it just goes to show how how exceptional these actresses are. There's one scene where it's done as a complete one take, and they're having an argument, and it is just, it's so visceral, and you can see them really just getting into the mindset of their characters. Don't want to spoil much else, but that was probably my favorite sequence of the entire film. But on top of that, it's, you know, it's raunchy without being like, without going like too overboard.
Yeah, which I might say one of my favorite jokes was Jason Sudeikis in a car, and the whole car. There's multiple jokes like that. Like there's multiple moments in here where you will just be talking about with your friends, like Jason Sudeikis moments in the car. There might be a pizza delivery man that might have some issues. That is a great running on gag. There's a panda bear running on gag that just is funny too. And again, going back to the chemistry you said that works for them, you even see that in the trailer. I love rewatching the trailer and seeing them, like when she's picking her up for school and there's them like, oh, we gonna go to school today? No?
Yeah,
and,
like, that sequence is really funny.
And it's one of those films that just comes off the screen, and like I said, this will be an instant classic.
I agree with you. This is we both said it, we think this is going to be like the next coming of age film, like go-to coming of age film for a new generation. What I do like is that, well, like you mentioned, while it was kind of realistic to high school, it also was a heightened version of it as well. I think the characters were pretty realistic to high school people, and they kind of subverted the typical high school stereotypes. Like there'll be the girl who's like the, you know, I guess the popular girl who has a tendency to sleep around. She's more than that, you know, and they kind of explore that, and which
is cool, because that's usually how high school was. You don't know everything about everyone.
And that's one of the big takeaways that I love, is that you don't, like, everyone may seem like these stereotypes on the outside, but they're so much more than that, because we're all people. We're all well-rounded and layered people with different like aspects to our personality, and so that was really good. But then the other thing I loved was how Olivia Wilde kind of approached this as like a buddy cop film. It doesn't really feel like it feels like a coming of age story without having the style of a coming of age story. It's like the two of them are very much, you know, the two cops who go on this night of just like craziness ensuing, and so it kind of becomes this odyssey of madness, and it's all good fun, and they all learn lessons, and it's a really well written script as well.
Just works.
I had so much fun with this movie, and I can't wait to see what Olivia Wilde does next as a director.
I totally agree with you. Well, from there on, I'm going to jump to my number 4. My number 4 is
3. You mean?
Well, I didn't get to 4 yet, because Booksmart was my number 5. Yeah, you jumped to 3.
Okay. Yeah, we jumped to 3. Yeah. Okay,
my number 4 is Good Boys.
Okay, yeah.
I fucking love Good Boys.
Yeah.
A lot of that goes because I can wholeheartedly relate to Jacob Tremblay's character, hands down. If you didn't see my review, like I said, like my first curse word was in 6th grade. My first kiss was in 6th grade. All of it kind of just goes to that, and this is 6th graders in 6th grade super bad, in a sense. These kids just want to go get a kissing bad.
Festival.
It really was, but it worked, because even though like Good Boys and Booksmart might have the same fucking song in the trailer, they're different films, like exploring different messages. Like Good Boys explores consent in a weird way with 6th graders. It's a great running on gag. But the thing that I love about Good Boys is, even though I don't think the direction is like, oh my god, one of the big standouts, there's no Olivia Wilde like vibrant, I think the chemistry between the characters, and that the F word was not just thrown around to be thrown around. It felt realistic that these 6th graders were playing 6th graders, and
they didn't. And you know, some people, because this is my number 4 as well, but some people have kind of over exaggerated how much they use it. It's usually the people around them who are using it more than them. But more than that, it's these 3. It's kind of a, weirdly enough, it's a realistic look at what happens in between, you know, or during the transition of like middle school to high school. The people you were once really close friends with, sometimes you kind of move on. And
I love that
you become friends with people who have similar interests, and then but you never lose sight of like those people. They just become less, I guess, prominent in your life, which is sad, but it's true. So I really like how they tackled that realistic message. But on top of that, I mean, my God, just the jokes and the comedy. I mean, we were laughing. We had Seth Rogen sitting behind us laughing, which maybe made the movie funnier than it was.
Yeah.
But I still.
But it was funny.
It was
I mean,
funny.
like,
yeah.
anything with the sex toys, like, there's a more extreme to that.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
the trailer really hit a lot of good jokes, and I love that trailer because it gives enough but doesn't give away a lot, which a lot of comedy trailers seem to do. They give away all the great jokes.
Yeah.
There's another comedy that's coming up on this list that I will talk about extensively that is so good with it.
Yeah.
But Good Boys just happened to be a film that I related so hard to, and I just fell in love with, like, the small messages, the running on gags. And I know, by no means I don't think this is gonna be a classic, but I think it'll be really hard for me to find another film that I laughed harder in this year. To the extremes, to the lengths of this. And I'm curious to see the final product, because from what we understand, the version we saw, they might change and tinker something.
Change it a little bit. There were a few there were a few shots that did not have the finished color grading on it, so they will definitely change a bit. They might, like, take out some jokes, redo some jokes, put that whole thing. But for the most part, I think the film we saw is the film we're going to get in August.
And I think definitely keep it on your radar. If you like, even if I wouldn't say if you're into, like, huge raunchy comedies, if you're just looking for a good comedy, like, this was a comedy that didn't rely, like, it relied on raunchiness, but it relied on these kids' innocence as well.
Yeah, this was,
and it worked.
What I kind of equate this film to is just, like, the movies that during high school I would pop in with my friends just on a Friday night or whatever, and we would just laugh our asses off having a good time. That's exactly what this film is.
You're going to get that from this one.
Yeah,
but I guess that's your number 4. I'm going to talk about my number 3 before we get to our number 2, since you already talked about your number 3.
Yeah.
And you've actually already talked about this film too. Yes, God, yes, my third favorite film is South by Southwest.
Interesting.
I love this film, dude. I loved Karen Main's direction and writing into this film. I cannot stop talking about this fucking film. A24, where the fuck are you? Pick up distribution for this film so I can watch it already.
Yeah,
I'll buy it from France if I have to. Watch it early on Blu-ray.
We did that with Silver Lake, so
yeah. Might happen with this, but again, Natalia Jair is so great in this. Like, and you said it perfectly, is that her expressions are what comes about when she discovers certain people might not be following God's words as great as they're preaching it. It's great to see her reactions to it and just how relatable this film felt. And, like, it deals with peer pressure. Even if like you're not, like, the whole masturbation thing is not the thing. Like, I'm trying to get around the word, but I mean, it's really just about your sexual demons and that you're in that weird urge of, like, is it okay? Is it not? And the stuff that this film tackles on. I mean, like, if I had any con for it, it was like we didn't get to know about anyone else. Like, we really didn't. But this is an excellent coming of age story that tackles a different type of character study. And you get my pun intended. But it is a great character study in that light on Natalia Jair's character. And one of my favorite running jokes of the whole festival was I had to rewind. You made me rewind Titanic twice. I'll say it there. I'll leave it there because I don't want to give it away. But it was an excellent film. That I know it's based off a short film.
Yeah.
And if you want a little bit of this film, the short film is up on YouTube. Go watch it. And it carries the same charm, but the full feature film is excellent. It's an hour and, like, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it's a perfect runtime.
It's the same length as mid-90s, you know? And I feel like if mid-90s can get picked up and be that short, not that length has anything to do with it, but I think if a film like mid-90s can get picked up, a film like this can also get picked up by A24.
This was a great film. Like I said, studio will be great. I think this will be one of those films that definitely hits later in the year. It's going to hit later in this year. I would not be surprised. It's not like an Anna and the Apocalypse where it never gets picked up and they just put it out limited. I think Yes, God, Yes. It won't be an Oscar contender, but it will be a strong film to look out for later in the year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For sure.
Let's go to our number 2.
Number 2.
I'm pretty sure we have the same number
1.
2.
We have the same ones. Number 2, we got Long Shot, probably the biggest friggin' surprise of the whole year, honestly. Not even just the festival, the whole year. Like, this movie is 10 times more funny than you think it's going to be going in. But it's
even
not just
trailers. Trailers did not show shit.
No, they don't show, like, half of the good jokes, which is awesome. But on top of that, it's so weird because it's as funny as it is. It's emotional. It's heartfelt. It's topical. It's not afraid to really.
It hits all the right beats.
It does.
It's a smart comedy. It's a very smart comedy.
Yeah, it's a smart comedy. It's a super crowd pleaser. but the thing that I think I admire most about it is it's an almost 2 hour long film, but it utilizes that time wisely to nurture this relationship. Because like when Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron, who are like former babysitters and babysitties, when they first meet, there's like a spark that's ignited, but the connection isn't immediate. It's something that's like nurtured along the way. And so when you get to the moment where they do finally, you know, become a couple, which isn't a spoiler, you could guess that it's a studio rom-com, which is one of the negatives, but not. I'll get into that a little bit later on. When that finally happens, you feel it because of the time spent to develop that relationship.
And you believe it, and because that's why it's called Long Shot. They're literally the most unlikely people to ever end up together. Like, I remember when they pitched this film, I was like, Jonathan Levine, I love him. Even though he did Snatch, never saw it, love the guy as a director.
Yeah.
Then you say Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron in a romantic comedy. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's so
it works.
Weird. Yeah.
I mean, it layers up to it, and I mean, now seeing the film, I love rewatching the trailer, because from the trailer, they don't really build up to them meeting and figuring out that they're in love, but it just works.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes because of both their performances. Seth Rogen might always be playing the funny guy. He does have some good dramatic stuff in here.
He does.
And I think it fits perfectly into the film. And same with Charlize Theron, who is, for me, my favorite part of the whole film. I think their chemistry elevated this film to a whole nother level, but she is comedic genius. Her timing is perfect. There's one sex scene in here that the trailer kind of shows a little bit of, where she's like, okay, you do whatever you want, but afterwards just make sure smack me on the ass and choke me a little bit. And he's just like, oh my god. It just works.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't think I could possibly say like, oh, I liked her performance more than his, just because like them together as like a thing, that entity is what I just adored about this movie. The way they would bounce off of one another, and
that's why this film stuck with me. It's still, actually, to be honest, it's still fighting for my number one.
Is it really? That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. And we'll talk about our number one in a little bit, but it really is still fighting. Like, I almost went and did the different thing, like, oh, like I'm gonna like, but here's the thing, our number one is still in our mind, but we haven't talked about one character who honestly stole every fucking scene he was in, and that is O'Shea Jackson Jr. He is. Put him in every comedy you could ever.
Great.
Because even though it's a political comedy, the thing I liked is it tackled both sides. It tackled both sides.
That was actually what I wanted to bring up, was that it's like in this, you know, day and age where you know, the political division, the gap is getting larger and larger, and it's such tense subject matter. What this film does is they lighten the mood when kind of tackling it, especially in that one scene which you're referring to. You know, they really they make it okay to discuss this sort of thing in a you know, civil comedic manner. One of this big standouts was actually Bob Odenkirk's TV star turned president, which I thought was really funny. There's this like Steve Bannon media mogul, which is great. And then like that one scene that you were that you talked about with O'Shea, where well, I don't want to get into anything. Him and Seth are having a discussion. Sure. Yeah, they have this discussion, and it's kind of like the manifestation of those like online social media arguments you've had. Anyways, it's a really smart of the moment political satire that that puts a smile on your face, even if like you're the biggest skeptic or whatnot. So I appreciated the movie for doing that.
Yes. And something that we actually haven't mentioned in the other two films, and even this one, is that I like that all three comedies that we've talked about, they are going to last a long time and hold up better than a lot of comedies today,
really
because there's not a lot of pop culture references. There's some here and there, but a lot of the big jokes are the ones that are like just genuinely funny. And that's why I think Long Shot just works, because it's hilarious, it's emotional, it's relatable. It just in general, it gives all of us nerds and geeky and people who don't think we could end up with a politician. Well, you can if you really want to. It made it believable, and I loved how much Long Shot did. It's standout performance. It's honestly, the more talk about it, it might be my favorite. I have to see it again, and I cannot wait to see
Yeah,
Long
that's
Shot.
fair. The one thing I will say is that it does follow the typical studio rom-com formula.
Yeah.
So it's kind of predictable, but it does give you some pleasant surprises along the way. It doesn't always do that, which I appreciated, but
it breaks the mold sometimes. Like
yeah.
Like obviously they have the rise and the fall. Like everyone, we're gonna break up here, we're gonna break up there.
Yeah.
And it makes sense why it doesn't just feel like it's very abrupt, and I like that. Yeah. It felt realistic. Like it felt like this was something actually happening in today.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is gonna be one when it comes out, people are going to love.
Which our number one, which comes out this next week.
Yeah.
You can start with this one because
us. Yeah, I mean, this movie is a freaking masterpiece, man. Like I don't even know how much like we could talk about it, but like
it's hard not to talk. We're gonna keep non-spoilers here.
No, for real, but it's I mean, I said it in our review, and this is gonna be my buzzword for the whole thing. Just call Jordan Peele the 21st century master of suspense, because there is no one who is building tension, creating
the most unsettling
imagery, and making a statement the way Jordan Peele is. I mean, it's like I said, it's provocative, it's mind-blowing, it's disturbing, and it's going to require multiple viewings to unlock all of the secrets it has, which is one of my favorite things. And so
I'm actually glad they didn't show it again, because I know we would have skipped the film to go see Us again.
Oh my god, yeah. It's like it sticks with you. You can't stop thinking about it. The music gets stuck in your head. It's very
the score.
Yeah, the score by Michael Abels is unbelievable. And the film is very Hitchcockian. Like I said, kind of alluding to Jordan Peele being like the new Hitchcock sort of thing. And I love that shit. I mean, that's one of my favorite just things in cinema. But the other thing I will say is that I think Lupita Nyong'o gives the best performance of the year so far. Yep. Not just like best actress, but just like the best performance of the year thus far. I think she has a real shot at a best actress nomination. I don't know what else is going to come out, but as of right now, like she commits so much, and she plays two different people, and she showcases her versatility.
Which we should give a shout out to everyone too, because everyone plays two different people.
Yeah.
Winston Duke, I'll start the praises with him. Oh, Jordan Peele said this before. You will not see M'Baku anymore, and that is 100% true, because it just plays that typical dad. And that's what really works. And I think you mentioned it, or maybe Mike did, but he's playing Jordan Peele. Like, this would be a role for Jordan Peele.
Yeah, the part was like totally written for like the way Jordan Peele would play that role. And I feel like Jordan Peele was like, nah, I can't be in that. So we gotta like kind of maybe just get those mannerisms down. But like Winston Duke still made it his own. So that was I loved. Because that's the other thing. This film has a lot of comedy in it, so
and it works. It never feels off tone. Like, it'll be funny, but you're still unsettled. Like the whole sequence in the house that you see from the trailer. There's so much more to do that. But obviously, you see him. He's like, "We can get crazy." Like fucking with them, and it's funny. But it's like when it cuts back to the kids and the mom, it's like, no, this is fucking scary.
Oh yeah,
too.
they're terrified. Yeah,
and you're terrified too. It's unsettling. It doesn't rely on jump scares. There are some good jump scares in there, but it's the unsettling imagery. You don't know what's going to happen. It takes different twists and turns that even though you might guess, it always still twists that what your guess was on its head till the very ending scene.
Yeah.
Excellent film, man.
Oh my god, it's just
I think it's better than Get Out. Like the more I thought about it, like Get Out stuck in my head. But Us, I actually want to go back and rewatch.
Yeah. Yeah, I cannot wait to go see that again. To see it a million more times. I mean, it's gonna be. I think you and I are both saying the same thing. It's gonna be, well, maybe not you anymore, but for me, it's gonna be really tough to top this movie for my favorite film of the year, just because of everything it does right. The level of craftsmanship, the music, the commentary that's being made on the status of our country. It's just so on point, and I love that about Jordan Peele. It's one of his best traits as a filmmaker, is the way he creates these really unsettling but relevant stories. No one else is doing what he's doing.
No one is. And I'm with you. Like, I mean, I need to see it again. I need to long shot again, but I mean, like, I just saw Shazam, and I can't, like, go into full details about it, but I really thought that film would have been my number one. And South by Southwest fucked me up because I don't, dude, I don't even think it's in my, like, it's maybe top 10, but
Shazam.
fuck, dude, there were excellent films at South by Southwest, and I think that's where we can end this ranking. Is this was an excellent film festival. When it first started, I was like, Us was great, but I don't know where to go from here.
Is anything gonna live up to this?
Yeah, and every film nailed it. And that's what was great this year, is that it seemed that they had great independent features and great big feature films. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy that we got to go. I think it was a great experience, and I'm looking forward to the next year. I don't know how the fuck they're gonna top it. Like,
they
straight up, like, I looked at
last year they premiered.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, last year they premiered Ready Player One, and we're all like, oh well, shit. Are they gonna have like a surprise screening like that? How are they gonna top that?
Yeah. So, and I mean, Us was kind of just their big, like, fuck you, we got Us, like, leave us alone. But it was a great time, and that is our ranking. That is our ranking of every film that we saw at South by Southwest 2019. Let us know down below, what films are you looking more forward to? Are you excited about any of these independent films that we talked about? I want to hear about it down below in the comments, guys. That's where me and Griffin are going to be interacting with you guys. But again, Griffin, thank you so much for joining me. This was a better discussion than it could have ever been. It's better than just me spewing, oh, I like this film, let's go to my number 6. And we had a full-on discussion. Let all the people know where they can find you at.
Yeah, you can find me personally on Twitter at Griff Schiller. You can go check out the Men vs. Movies YouTube channel. I'm sure Zach will have a link in the description down below. I mean, you know, movie reviews, podcasts, a whole bunch of good stuff. So feel free to check that out.
Yeah, make sure to go check him out, guys. He'll be doing a bunch of South by Southwest reviews, just as I will. He already has Long Shot up and Us, which I was featuring in his Us reviews. So thank you again for having me on there. Great stuff over there. Go hit his like and subscribe button, guys. And again, guys, you guys know where to find me. I'm over here at Zach Pope Reviews. You guys can hit that like and subscribe button for all early movie reviews and sorts of geeky content. Plus, you guys can go over check out Sandwich on Films, which, again, go check it out. We are giving advanced screen tickets out for Us. Stop asking me how I saw Us early. It was out South by Southwest. Just go check out the website. Maybe you'll be able to check it out early, too. Thank you guys again so much for watching, though. We appreciate it all. So until next time, stay classy.